All right, it is now 6 p.m., so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 24th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting, the first one of the year. So welcome, everybody. Happy New Year, although it seems silly to say at the end of January, but it's been a while since we saw each other. So with that, why don't we go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Jorgensen, would you mind leading us, please? Sure. Thank you very much. And let's go ahead and do a roll call. So Deputy City Clerk Megan Wilbanks, would you please help us out?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Houghton?
I'm here.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Here.
Commissioner Khan?
Here.
Let the record reflect. Commissioner Ringer is going to be absent. Commissioner Tolley is also absent at this time, and Vice Chair Cooley is absent. Chair Munoz Morris.
Here. Thank you very much, Megan. We'll move on to item number 2, which is our public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. So this is a chance for the public to speak up on anything that's not scheduled for us to discuss tonight. Do we have any speaker cards at this time?
I haven't received any speaker cards. However, if anyone in the audience would like to fill one out, they're up here at the table. As Chair said, aren't on tonight's agenda, so if you want to speak on the public hearing item, please also fill one of those out and give it to me.
Great. Well, seeing nobody rushing forward, we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to item number 3, which is our consent calendar. So Commissioners, I'll bring it to you for any discussion or motions. Sorry?
I motion that we approve the consent calendar and the minutes of December 13th.
Great.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. We'll move on to item number 4, which is our public hearing items. We have one item tonight, which is a review to an amendment to an existing CUP for the safe parking spaces over at 40 Prado Road. It looks like we have Homelessness Response Administrative Specialist Sarah Cooper here to present. So Sarah, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Daisy Weiberg. I'm going to be joining Sarah Cooper presenting to all of you tonight. I'm the Homelessness Response Manager for the City of San Luis Obispo, and Sarah is our Administrative Specialist for Homelessness Response. We will be presenting a proposed amendment to the conditional use permit for the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program, which was originally approved by the Commission in December of 2014. Staff's recommendation this evening is to adopt the draft resolution amending the current CUP to include 5 additional parking spaces for Capslo's Safe Parking Program at 40 Prado, bringing the total number of spaces from 7 to 12. The amendment also includes a slight adjustment of program hours to better align with services at 40 Prado Homeless Services Center. The updated hours for the program will be from 2:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. But before we delve into the details of the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program, we would like to provide context for how the program aligns with this city's homelessness response priorities. The city established preventing and addressing homelessness as a key priority with its fiscal year 23-25 major city goal for housing and homelessness. In addition to the major city goal, the city's first ever homelessness response strategic plan was adopted by the City Council in March of 2023 in alignment with the San Luis Obispo countywide plan to address homelessness. The strategic plan outlines the city's role in implementing strategies to prevent and address homelessness, including connecting individuals experiencing homelessness to services and housing. One of the goals outlined in the strategic plan includes collaborating with the county to develop scalable and replicable programs to connect those experiencing homelessness to a variety of shelter and housing options through timely outreach and advocate for county implementation of successful programs. The city continues to advocate for a regional safe parking strategy, but the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program is currently the only operating safe parking site countywide after the closure of the railroad safe parking site in August 2023 and the county's closure of the Oklahoma Parking Village. According to 2022 point-in-time count data, 370 people were experiencing vehicular homelessness countywide, making up 26% of the homeless population in SLO County. Out of those 370 individuals, 191 were residing in the city of San Luis Obispo. This data demonstrates the critical need for safe parking opportunities for individuals living out of their car, van, or RV. Safe parking was specifically identified as a key task in the Homelessness Response Strategic Plan with the intent of working with the faith-based community to develop a rotating overnight safe parking program, which the Commission has previously provided direction on. While the city continues to collaborate with CAPSLO and the faith community to develop the rotating overnight safe parking program, including confirming potential host site locations, there is a growing need for safe parking in our community. The proposed amendment of CAPSLO's conditional use permit aligns with the objectives outlined in the strategic plan, providing overnight safe parking for up to 12 vehicles. Now I'm going to hand it over to Sarah to give a little bit more of an overview on safe parking and the CUP amendment.
So before we get further into the current CUP and the proposed amendment, I'd like to provide further details as to what safe parking encompasses. Safe parking provides individuals living in their vehicles with a designated safe space to temporarily park overnight without the risk of a citation. It is a structured program that provides individualized case management and stability to facilitate the transition into permanent housing, employment opportunities, and service referrals. Safe parking provides individuals with a sense of community as well as on-site amenities, including restrooms, hand washing stations, and trash dumpsters. The 40 Prado Safe Parking Program has effectively provided safe parking opportunities for individuals experiencing vehicular homelessness since 2014. Data from 2019 through 2023 shows that the program has provided over 10,000 total parking nights to 104 unique participants, with the average length of stay being 114 days. Over that time period, CAPSLO staff have facilitated 46 permanent housing placements, resulting in a 44% housing rate. In August 2023, with the closure of the railroad safe parking site, several safe parking participants transitioned over to the 40 Prado site and enrolled in the safe parking program, which includes housing-focused case management. Since that transition, CAPSLO staff have facilitated 8 permanent housing placements. As you can see on the chart, the average participants per night from 2019 to 2023 has fluctuated from 4 to 7, with the 2023 average being 6.2 participants. However, CAPSLO currently has a wait list of 44 individuals who are interested in enrolling in the safe parking program, highlighting the demand for overnight safe parking opportunities. As referenced in Exhibit B, participants in the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program are required to participate in case management, pass a Megan's Law 290 background check, and enter into an agreement with CAPSLO to abide by all of the rules of the program, including having a driver's license, vehicle registration, and auto insurance. For any violations of the site rules and guidelines, CAPSLO issues a rule notification and records all incidents on site within the CAPSLO database. CAPSLO may ask participants to leave due to violations. However, participants may submit a panel request for reentry into services. Now I'd like to provide some background information on the conditional use permit for CAPSLO's safe parking program. So in June 2012, CAPSLO initiated a pilot program to establish a safe parking program at the former Prado Day Center. On September 3rd, 2013, City Council adopted amendments to Title 17 of the Municipal Code in Section 17.86.230 to allow for safe parking facilities in the City of SLO with the approval of a conditional use permit. The safe parking program at 40 Prado received formal use permit approval from the Planning Commission on December 10th, 2014 for 7 safe parking spaces. Due to the growing need for safe parking, Capslo is submitting this request to increase the number of parking spaces at 40 Prado through an amendment of the existing CUP. Capslo's CUP amendment includes an increase of parking spaces at 40 Prado Homeless Services Center from 7 to 12 and an adjustment of the safe parking program hours to 2:30 to 8 a.m. These changes are intended to increase service capacity and establish further alignment with the timing of services provided at 40 Prado Homeless Services Center. The updates to Capslo's CUP for the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program do not change or conflict with the previous confirmations to zoning regulations, engineering standards, major city goal alignment, and environmental review. Capacity and hours of operation are to be considered on a case-by-case basis in accordance with Section 17.86.230. This project is consistent with the General Plan Housing Element Policy 8.10 as it provides a form of transitional shelter for individuals and families experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless. City policies further support homeless services and transitional housing opportunities, especially those located close to major transit, bike, and pedestrian corridors. In accordance with zoning regulations, Chapter 17.10, Table 2-1, uses allowed by zone, safe parking activities are conditionally allowed subject to a conditional use permit. Safe parking regulation, Section 17.86.230, establishes standards required for any safe parking facility with the city. The 40 Prado Safe Parking site is located in the office district with a PD overlay, and as noted within the program description, which is included in Exhibit B, the applicant agrees to comply with all standards under the safe parking regulations. Several factors of the proposed project have been considered and analyzed as part of this modification to the Safe Parking Program conditional use permit for consistency with the safe parking regulations. And these regulations include number of vehicles allowed, hours of operation, separation between facilities, neighborhood relations plan, monitoring and oversight, and restroom, water, and trash accessibility as outlined in the application attachments. And due to 40 Prado being a low barrier navigation center, this project is exempt from CEQA by California Government Code Section 65660B. The city established the Good Neighbor policy in order to maintain clear expectations between the community and homeless services. In compliance with this Good Neighbor policy, Capslo implemented a neighborhood relations plan for the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program as referenced in Exhibit A. They will continue implementing the existing plan for the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program, which includes the following elements listed: providing methods for the community to contact the organization and documenting and addressing any issues within 24 business hours, staff training for emergency procedures and contacting police and/or fire in emergencies, in-depth inspections of the safe parking facility to identify issues or needs, and holding meetings with neighborhood groups to discuss issues and policies as requested by the city or key stakeholders. All property owners and tenants within a 300-foot radius of 40 Prado Homeless Services Center were notified of this application for an amended CUP to increase safe parking capacity. We would now like to revisit staff's recommendation to adopt the resolution amending Capslo's current conditional use permit to include 5 additional parking spaces for the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program, bringing the total capacity to 12 vehicles and to update the hours to 2:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. And that concludes our presentation, and we would now be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Great. Thank you both for the presentation. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Jorgensen.
I have a couple questions just to kind of understand maybe the bigger picture. I'm not sure if this is for Susan or Daisy or both, but could this program continue if other sites also chose to take some parking at night, some safe parking at night? And are we still looking for other sites? I heard the figure 44 as the number kind of on a waiting list. That's more than 12.
Yes, so
And I
the,
don't know how many of the 12, of the 7, I assume the 7 spaces are already occupied.
correct.
Mhm.
Yes, so that we are, the city and Capslo are continuing to work on developing the rotating overnight safe parking program with the intention of having 6 host sites confirmed before moving forward with that program. That would be in addition to the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program and connected to the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program. So the intention is that if we are able to develop and implement the rotating model, that participants would start at 40 Prado. They would spend a minimum of probably 30 days at that location. That is where they would be enrolled in case management, and there would be a vetting process basically that would take place before they would be referred to one of the rotating sites, which would rotate monthly. So the 2 programs would be connected with Capslo managing both the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program and the rotating model. We do have 3 churches that are loosely committed. I would say their boards are in different places of committing to the rotating safe parking program, and then we are exploring several different city-owned parking lots. So that is the brief update on where we're at with the rotating model. And yes, the 40 Prado safe parking program would continue to operate, and in any additional sites would build additional capacity.
There's another question or two. So I thought I heard you say that parkers might start at the Prado site and then be moved to a rotating site. So there's kind of a base camp, so to speak, or
Correct.
something.
Yes.
And there's some practice with all this so that the faith-based organizations that take on a rotating basis, some parkers will already have parkers who are experienced with the model. Got it.
Correct.
Got
Yeah,
it.
that
I
was
like
the
that a lot.
intention of that model, or that's our hopeful intention with the rotating safe parking program.
And so in a different vein, if I could ask one more question. So starting at 2:30, what differences does that make, and what does it allow, and would that also be carried forward to rotating sites?
I can let Capslo, when they speak, address this more thoroughly, but my understanding is that the 2:30 timing aligns with their services at 40 Prado Homeless Services Center. So from 8 a.m. to 2:30, outside of the safe parking hours, participants have access to 40 Prado, their day services. So participants can still go in 40 Prado to use their restrooms, they can access meals, use the internet, the laundry and shower facilities. But between 2:30 p.m. and 8 a.m., they are only able to be in the safe parking area and in their vehicle, and there are separate bathrooms out that have access from the parking lot that they can use during those hours using a key code. So there's just a distinction between the programs, whether they're using day services at 40 Prado or they're using a safe parking site. And I think just trying to create structure and separation between those 2 programs. There may be more that the Capslo staff can expand on in terms of kind of the thinking behind those hours, but that's my initial understanding.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Cooley.
Thanks. I have a few questions as well. And following up on that question, so if I understand what you said, then if you are a safe parker, then you will now be in the safe parking part from 2:30 to 8 in the morning, but not in the day part of Prado? Is that right?
During the program hours for safe parking, which are 2:30 p.m. overnight into 8 a.m., is when they can be in their vehicles in the parking lot using safe parking. Between 8 a.m. and 2:30, they can use day services at 40 Prado, or they can go off-site. Those are kind of outside of the safe parking program hours. Safe parking really is intended to be overnight. And I think I didn't answer your question about the rotating sites. Those hours would be different than these hours. The rotating hours that we were proposing were 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and those might vary by site. So these hours are specific to 40 Prado in alignment with their overall services that they provide.
So would they still have full access to the day services at 40 Prado as
Yes.
much as they needed to beyond 2:30?
Yes, and
Okay.
anyone enrolling in a safe parking program would be assigned a case manager and have access to the case management and housing navigation services.
Okay, great. I had a similar question about the state of the rotating safe parking program, and I hope you said there's 3. Well, we're not talking about that tonight, but we're all curious about that because we've seen these things come up and go down kind of in flames. So I hope that we get some progress on that as well. And I really like this idea that when we get that program established, that this would be sort of the base, and then you would kind of graduate from there and have some experience with the program and be a known quantity and so on. So, okay, so 7, adding 5 to 12, seems like we're just scratching the surface still. And that's one of my biggest questions here. Where are all those people parking now that they don't have? I mean, there's only 7 in the city. So where are they all? Where are they going?
Yeah, most of the individuals that are living in their vehicles are parking on city streets or, in different parking lots. We have a lot of folks that do still park in the parking lots adjacent to the Railroad Museum in different parts of the city. So we, do definitely see the need for additional safe parking, and that is something that we as the city are continuing to advocate for on a regional basis and advocating at the county level to develop and implement a regional safe parking strategy, not just specific to the city of SLO, but that it's needed countywide. And as we mentioned earlier, the 40 Prado Safe Parking Program is currently the only safe parking site in the county, and we're seeing the need for more within the city and the county, and that's why we'll continue to develop the rotating safe parking model, understanding that, that still won't meet the need, but we are committed to trying to provide more safe parking for folks that are experiencing vehicular homelessness.
Okay, so you're in coordination with the county. Is there anything happening at the site out by the sheriff's office on Highway 1?
I don't have information to update that on other than they are closing that site. So
Yeah.
it's in kind of a drawdown process.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have more to share on that since it's a county-led
Okay.
operation.
Okay. It seems surprising that the county's not, maybe they're not really doing much here. So, but okay. Then, it seems like we have, I guess what I would say is I don't think we have much opposition to this tonight, right? It makes a lot of sense. It's not near any other neighborhoods. We're not going to get I don't think, the kind of pushback that we had on the other proposals. But we should remember that there's a cost of not doing things too, and that the status quo has a cost on the community. And right now it's diffused and spread around and kind of in the shadows. And so we have to remember that that's part of the need, and that's why we're doing this. It's not like, okay, I think I've made my point there. So, and I've also wondered if it's possible, and maybe you've talked about this, to have some of the residents or the safe parker people, particularly ones that have more experience with the program, to be some sort of like a site captain that might be participating in establishing some kind of sense of community and rules and so on. Is that something that's realistic to even think about, or is it already happening?
CAPSLO staff may be able to share more on that front at the 40 Prado site specifically, but when they were managing the safe parking site at the railroad location, they did have a site captain that was assigned at that location. That person served as the point of contact for CAPSLO staff, for other participants. And I would say every individual that I met that was in that role took that very seriously and really did serve as kind of a captain and leader at that site. Unfortunately, they kept getting housed, so they had to find different captains. Fortunately,
Good problem, right?
So they did find that to be very successful, having a participant as a site captain. And I know that's something that we've talked about and explored, continuing that element with the rotating safe parking model.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, maybe we'll hear a little bit more about that. That's great. That's it for me.
I do have a couple, hopefully quick questions. First one is, with this amended CEP, is it an evergreen permit or does it have a sunset clause? How does it normally work? Maybe I'm looking over to the side a little more here.
No sunset clause. It runs with the
So-
operation of the
Okay.
homeless service.
So unless
center.
otherwise revoked or like services stop at the location, et cetera, right?
Correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
gotcha. Going back to the number of spots, an extra 5, great, wonderful, right? But you threw out some numbers, so 191 living in their vehicles in the city, of which about 51, I think, the 44 plus 7 in the program qualify. So we have about 30% of the ones that we know about in the city that qualify, but those 12 would barely, I mean, they get us what, 20% of the qualifying people parked? Could you, or maybe, you know, in looking at the applicant, and I know we're going to get to you on in just a little bit, I'm just curious about the criteria behind identifying the 12, because I drove through the site today and I there's plenty of parking spots, and I figured, well, maybe they want to space them out, you know, privacy, et cetera. But in one of the slides that you showed, they're all bunched together at the end. So I'm just curious, why not 24, I guess? Or what was the reasoning behind, you know, arriving at 12?
And they may be able to speak more to this, but there
Yeah.
are parking requirements for the site to have
Okay.
available for staff. They do have participants that are using the overnight shelter that have vehicles, so they do need to have, I
Gotcha.
believe it's 30 parking spots available for the facility to meet their parking requirements. Those 12
Oh,
that
I
are
see.
designated for safe parking are in addition to those 30 spots. They also
Okay.
have a tenant that they share that parking lot with, Sun Street Centers, which is a treatment center. So they use or utilize or need to have designated parking spots as well. So I believe, and Capslo may be able to share more on this, but 12 was the max capacity that they could
Okay.
utilize and still meet their other parking requirements. So for now, that was the most that they could
Okay.
accommodate.
That makes sense. Thank you. So in thinking about that, from a regulatory point of view, either from the city's perspective or from us, would there be a way for us to reconsider their parking requirements just for the site, especially for the overnight hours? Because I imagine they're not running with a full staff overnight. So my guess is there are ample parking spots on the site. And I'm not trying to put Capslo on the spot. If 12 is the number, 12 is the number. I get it, right? But I'm just trying to think here, like, you know, if you have some capacity issues, which it seems like it is, some parking requirements on our end, are those negotiable, I guess? Can we work with Capslo to review those for specific hours as either part of the CUP or as part of an additional amendment later on?
We can look at potential applications of reductions for the center as currently approved by the CUP and by current parking regulations and state law. But the operational needs are also very important.
Of course. Yeah.
As Daisy described. So it is a potential option in examining a future CUP amendment, but it would certainly depend on the operational needs for the facility.
Right. Yeah. I'm completely understanding. I thank you for that. But just something to consider, because I know obviously just by the numbers, you know, we're just putting a small dent into the problem, right? And the last question, and I imagine this is probably more for the applicant than maybe for city staff, is through the materials I read, there's staff on site 24/7, 365, but it didn't really mention how many staff members are there overnight or during kind of the peak, let's call it, hours of the program. Obviously, during regular business hours through 5 p.m., I imagine there's quite a bit of people on site. There was a bunch of them today. But for those overnight hours, how many staff, or is it like 1 or 2, or do we have an idea? More out of curiosity than anything else. And if that's more for the applicant, then we can put a pin on it.
Yeah, I'll let them address that because I don't know the
Sounds
exact
good.
numbers.
Why don't we go ahead and do that, and we'll move it over to the applicant if you don't want to come up and share some words. Good? Okay. Oh, not at all. Just quick reminder, we normally have up to 10 minutes for you all. You can use any and all of that time if you like. So, yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, there. I figured it out. I'm going to start just with some of the questions that came up and then kind of go into a few more details. So, oh yeah, sorry. My name's Jack Leahy. I'm the Director of Homeless Services at Capslo. And thank you, Planning Commission, for having us here and considering the CUP. And thank you for the reminder. I'm going to go through some of the questions that you all raised. A lot of it's echoing what Daisy and the city had already mentioned, but just wanted to make sure that we were all clear on it. So starting at the 2:30 p.m., just to be really clear, if somebody's enrolled in safe parking, they have full access to our center. So it's just a delineation as to, for us, for staff, who's allowed to park in the parking lot and at what times becomes a critical thing that we need to know. So we know everybody who's enrolled in safe parking at 2:30, they're permitted to park their car in the lot, rest in their vehicle, whatever they need to do. We do have some folks who are unregistered who will come in, rest in their vehicle. They're enrolled in our access center, but they're not enrolled in safe parking. So we need a way in which we can delineate kind of who is in the program, who's not in the program, so we can have some structure in that parking lot.
And can they stay parked there all day through from 8 to 2:30, or do they have to leave?
They don't necessarily have to leave. There are folks who leave their car parked from some days. They'll leave it parked during the day there. We don't force people to leave the lot, but our case manager's goal is there to set their goals in place so that they're actually active in pursuing housing options. So usually the case manager is working with them to structure their time, to make sure they're making housing appointments or going to their job. So by nature of just the case manager working with them, most of those spots are empty during the day. And then the capacity came up, like kind of, is this a right capacity? Does that work for us? With a rotating model, we thought about the overall capacity, including the rotating model, from the standpoint of a case manager. So a case manager can typically handle a caseload of 20 to 30 folks who are experiencing homelessness and actually really have an impact with them, meaning they can work on their goals with them, achieve success, and keep new clients going while exiting clients to housing. So between 20 and 30 for one case manager seemed realistic. So we have committed to roughly 12 at the rotating model and 12 at Prado. So the case manager can work with 24 participants at one time and actually be really effective in working with them. Essentially, your case managers, the more you decrease their caseload, the more effective they're gonna be, but they just service less people at a time. So it's not like we would only work with 24 people. Most likely we'll work with 24 people, unique people every quarter. And then you have some stayers, you have some people who only need a week's worth of support and then they move on. So you just get this mix and match of how many people are we working with? I would say it's 24 at one time overall, so 12 at one time at Prado would be kind of where we kind of level set our capacity. And that kind of gets to the scratching, you'd made a comment scratching the surface in terms of who we're serving and how many people we're serving. Our safe parking program served, I believe it was 104 households since 2019. We were averaging 6 people a night. So, I mean, that's a lot of people over time, and that's really what I call churn in a program of new people exiting is increased in its pace when you have a case manager assigned to somebody, because you have somebody really motivating somebody through the process and making sure that they can achieve housing, or if their housing goals are unachievable, they're giving them a reality check and working with them to say, hey, what is actually achievable? So I still believe that we do have the overall capacity to do more, and we could definitely have the conversation with the city to increase beyond 12 to a number of 14 or 16, but that would really start turning into, well, we need to look at our overall capacity and what the funding level is in this program because we right-sized our capacity to what we're being funded at.
Can I add, so there's 40-something on the wait list. What, if I were to get on the wait list right now, what would be the wait time till I could get a slot at 40 Prado right now?
Well,
approximately. I mean, or historically.
Nathan Rubinoff, everybody. So we have our full team here: Cecil Hale, Nathan Rubinoff, Manuel Menchaca. Cecil is our manager of 40 Prado, so he manages the entire center. Manuel Menchaca Jr. over here heads outreach and case management for Kansas Avenue safe parking and all the coastal outreach that we do here, but he also has been doing outreach in SLO City for a number of years now. And Nathan here has been doing our safe parking program at Railroad and our outreach in the SLO City. So I will turn it over to Nathan to answer that question.
And at Prado.
And at Prado.
So I'm the one managing the wait list. So when a name comes off the wait list, I usually give that person 24 to 48 hours to get back to me, and then I'll move on to the next name. A lot of people don't have reliable phones or emails that they're checking frequently. So when a name comes up, it might take 2 or 3 people. So it's kind of hard to tell, but 2 months maybe, that would be my guess. Yeah.
And to be clear with what Nathan was saying too, is that people don't lose their spot if we can't contact them. So it's not like you get one shot and then you're at the back of the line. We just couldn't get in contact with you. You're still prioritized until we can confirm that you don't qualify for this resource anymore or you don't need it. The other thing in terms of capacity that I think is different based on our original CUP into 2016 to now is we've always had case management attached to this program. That's been a hallmark of our Prado Safe Parking Program. It was written up as a best practices in a USC study nationally as a best practice in safe parking. But we only had 0.5 full-time effort of case management attached to this program. So half of one case manager's job was to work with the safe parkers. We have expanded that to have Nathan here to work with our safe parkers and a full-time case manager under him. So we've expanded our capacity to work and deepen the work with the folks who are doing safe parking. I think some of the proof is in the success that we saw in the railroad safe parking, where when we really dedicated intentional staffing levels to these programs, we got really good success rates. We served over 257 people in the city of SLO for safe parking in that program, with 41 households achieving housing, which for an outreach program is right on par, roughly like 16% achieve housing. That's national standard best practice. So, I mean, in other programs, for example, the outreach efforts that we've done at Oklahoma Avenue, we achieved, of the folks who engage with us case management, 50% of them achieved housing, which is phenomenal for an outreach program. So we know what we're doing when we start to deepen the work with folks. And I just want to really emphasize that without the staff that we have, we couldn't even approach the city to say, can we expand to 9 sites or 10? And then the question that came up about site captain, I don't want to run too much over on time. Okay. We really thought that was a great model. We really like the site captain model. I mean, it works to empower folks. It empowers the site captains. It empowers the folks to own their space, to own the program. At Prado, it's a little difficult to do a site captain approach because we do have enough staffing to actually make sure that things operationally are going smoothly the whole time. So we have, during the day, we always have 4 staff who are staffing the center itself with a supervisor. And at night, up to 11 p.m., we have the same structure. So from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., we have 4 staff with a supervisor just to maintain the site. We also have case managers and ancillary staff. Overnight, we have between 3 and 4 staff staffing the center from 11 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. when the morning crew comes in. And those staff work with participants to make sure that their needs are being met, that meals are had, that laundry is being done, showers are working, but they're also there to do crisis interventions, nonviolent de-escalations. They're there to problem solve with clients. They're there to help them make phone calls. They're there kind of as like to help them in any way, shape, or form and to maintain safety on the site. They also are there to enforce site rules and our policies. So they're the staff that would, ask somebody to leave for the evening if they're being unsafe, or if a conflict arises that can't be solved, then they're the ones that mediate it. They also do perimeter checks, which is essentially walking the property, making sure that everything's okay on an hourly basis. They're kind of a jack of all trades, so to speak, for our center. So we do have staffing levels that allow us to really monitor the parking lot. The parking lot has cameras throughout. It has good lighting. We also chose those spots specifically in the rear corner of the lot to make sure that we had an active lot throughout, meaning like we didn't have an area of the parking lot that just was completely deprogrammed and we didn't have any intentional use of it. So they're there because it's in the rear of the building. It is somewhat secluded. You can't see it from the street, so people aren't identifying themselves to the community when they're parking in there. You can't see it. You have to get into the parking lot and kind of weave around to get to it. I mean, you were there today. You really can't see that from the street. You can see a few cars from the street in the staff parking area, but that's it. And in addition to Sun Street, we also have a co-located FQHC, CHC in our building as well. So we have the parking needs of a full-time clinic in that parking lot. So depending on the time of day, people are parking on Prado Road for parking. It just depends on who's there. And I had some notes about our success rates overall at Prado. We publish those as board reports. I'm not going to go over our bed nights, but the big thing I wanted to highlight is, we provided 40,000 nights of shelter last year. We have really pushed Prado to be of the maximal amount of use to the community, both the housed and unhoused community. We have volunteerism at highest rates they've ever been. We have staffing levels at very high rates. We've expanded our recuperative care program based on the same logic. We saw the need, we had the capacity, and we've been averaging 8 folks enrolled in our recuperative care program, whereas a few months ago our maximum was 6 as a maximum, and now we're averaging 8. So we're seeing the need, we're meeting it, and we're just really hopeful that this expansion will allow us to continue the impact that we've had in the other outreach programs. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, but thus ends my rant, or at least my ask for you all.
Other questions for the applicant? None over here, none over here? Great. I think we're good. Thank you very much. Appreciate your answers and your comments. Yep. All right, well, with that, we will check to see if we have any public comments, any speaker cards on this item?
No, I haven't received speaker cards. Just quick check. Nobody else in the room wanted to speak on this item. Okay, Chair,
All right.
seeing none.
All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. So I'll bring it back to the commission. Any additional discussion, thoughts, comments, or anybody have a motion?
Let's do it. If I may, I'll move to adopt the resolution to amend the existing conditional use permit as described.
And I'll second that motion. I do think this is a good program, and it's already been proven that it works over there on 40 Prado, so I don't have any problem with it at all. Thank you.
Sounds like we have a, yes,
I just had a comment before.
please, of course.
When this came up a couple of months ago, I think I said something, things weren't, I felt like in some ways the city was kind of a junior partner with the county and really with the state in terms of getting their feet wet with all this. And I was, I could kind of see when the railroad district project really wasn't cooking on all cylinders or working on all cylinders, keep our metaphor not too split up there. It seemed like maybe the city didn't quite have was fully grounded yet and had its feet on the ground in terms of the best role the city could play. It really seems like this kind of attempt to leverage what Capslo can do so well and kind of extend it gradually to others with, as kind of I said as a base camp, that really doesn't quite fit it, but the notion that it's partnerships on every level. It's like three-dimensional partnerships. I'm really hopeful this will really help us turn a corner here and really feel like we're jumping on things. This is I think we're seeing something really coming together now.
Yeah, since we have a motion and a second and a third and a fourth, I'll just add very quickly as well that I didn't have a chance to say earlier that I particularly appreciated there were some comments in the different documents we received about kind of the coordination of the program beyond the boundaries of Capslo and 40 Prado, and sharing information on approved parkers with the police and other items that I believe community members expressed concern over when the rotating sites came before us some months back. So I appreciate the mention of those things and the consideration of those as well in the different documents we reviewed. So I think with that, do we need a roll call vote, or can we just, okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Thanks, Chair. Commissioner Houghton,
Aye.
Commissioner Khan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Aye.
Chair Munoz Morris,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Great. Thank you very much. That concludes our public hearing items. So really the last thing for us to do is to discuss any staff updates and agenda forecast. And I believe, Teresa, you're in charge of that tonight for us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
The next regular meeting is scheduled for February 14th. It has one item scheduled, and that is pertaining to the Avila Ranch development, and it's a review of a new 86-unit multifamily and 60-unit affordable housing development within the R4 zoned portion of the Avila Ranch development plan. And then following that, the meeting on March 13th has one item, and that is the presentation of the general plan annual report.
Great. Thank you very much. February 14th, March 13th. Great. Make a note of that. Any final thoughts, Commissioner?
So no meeting on the 4th Tuesday of February, which is the 28th? Nothing planned anyway?
Not scheduled.
Okay.
All right. Any final thoughts? Everybody good? All right. I think with that, we are all done for today. Thank you, everybody. And we'll call this meeting adjourned. Good night.